I'm giving it a try sober.
I love it. I love it, though.
If this is your lowest rated episode, fucking back to the juice, man. I play for the team. I'm down for the team. If it hurts me, so what? Let's make this fucking thing fly.
Dr. McDonald's going to prescribe you a hot beef injection.
Oh, no.
Sorry, that was a little gross. Sorry.
I'll definitely need some Tito's for that.
Yeah.
Recorded live from Studio 12A in sunny Phoenix, Arizona. You're listening to the Josh and Friends Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to the Josh and Friends Podcast. I am your host. My name is Josh. And this week, we are here to discuss the 2000s. The year is 2004. And some of the top comedies at the box office include Anchorman, Napoleon Dynamite, Dodgeball, and Meet the Fockers. Popular TV shows debuting this year include Lost, Desperate Housewives, and Entourage. And the social media platform known as the Facebook is launched at Harvard University. But we are here to discuss the year in rock. And joining me in today's discussion are Ethan and Lee. And we'll be selecting our top 5 favorite rock albums of 2004, along with our thoughts on the bands, the music, and the industry at this time. So let's get right into this and help me welcome back to the show 2 of my good buddies, Mr. Ethan McDonald and Lee Olson. Gentlemen, how you doing?
How are you doing, Ethan?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm here with my boys. We're going to talk some music. I mean, come on, doesn't get better on a Saturday night.
I know, right? It is pretty goddamn good. Yeah. No, and I'm great too, but you see how polite we are? We waited for each other. We had to wait and see who was going to answer your question first, Josh. But how are you doing? How are you doing?
I am doing
Josh?
good because we are here to talk about 2004. You guys remember 2004?
Ooh,
Very little.
barely.
Yeah.
Barely? Oh.
Yeah,
It was the year my son was born. That was the greatest release of 2004 was Riker McDonald, right out of Sarah's womb.
Maybe I know Riker's pretty versed on music, but maybe he can learn something from this episode.
Hopefully he can. Yeah.
I bet that album was fun to make.
No, it was a great album to make.
Spend as much time in the studio. Spend as much time in the studio on that one as you could.
Yeah, as much band practice as we could get. And
then,
it was kind of a shock. We're like, whoa. Yeah.
So 2004, we were 10 years removed from high school, which is pretty crazy. But I was still working in radio. So I was still involved kind of in the music business. And, just like any other year, there was some great music being produced. And so what we're going to do is we're going to name off our top 5 favorite rock albums of this year. And we're going to have some fun doing it, hopefully, because Lee's down on some Tito's. We're getting fun. We're getting crazy. We're getting wow.
Not tonight. We're gonna try a new formula.
Oh,
I know, right? Hey, look, you can let the people comment. Am I better drunk or not? Because you never know. I don't think they've ever seen me on a pod here where I wasn't.
I'm just glad your beard's not dyed anymore. That's all I'm saying.
Oh,
come on, that was rad. I had to do that as a joke because
I know. Once I heard it was a joke, it was awesome. But when I first saw that, I'm like, what in the fudge am I? But
also, fucking awesome that people don't know that they're like, what did he do? And they think that that's me. That I'm like, I'm just gonna color that beard today. I like that better. I like it better.
All right, so let's start this off, guys. Ethan, I think we're going to start off with you. What is sitting at your number 5 spot for 2004's top rock albums?
Well, I'll be honest. This album was not an album that I think caught my attention in 2004 exactly. I think, back when MTV or VH1 still showed music videos, I remember seeing this video with this band where the lead singer looked very frail and his eyes were painted with like black makeup around it. And I'm like, what is this? But it was just catchy and it caught my attention. And then I had my cousin Caitlin from old Canada, the Great White North, give me this CD when I was driving home. She goes, you just got to check this out. And that is My Chemical Romance with 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge. There's just some unbelievable tracks on this. Like, this is a really good album, honestly, start to finish, which for me is always the criteria. It can't just be one or two good songs, right? And so for this band, who I'd never really probably even heard of before, I'm sure they had albums before that, I don't know. But songs like Helena and I'm Not Okay and Thank You for the Venom, I mean, and that's just a couple. I mean, this whole album was just caught me by surprise. I'm like, this is awesome. And they had some other albums that followed that were pretty good, but this one's still by far and away, in my opinion, the pinnacle of their music making ability. So for me, My Chemical Romance, which is a strange choice.
If my memory serves me correctly, didn't you say that there's a possibility that Riker was created during listening to this album? Or maybe I'm off.
I don't know if it would be this album. I mean, who knows? Because I'm thinking, like, if you do the math backwards, he's born in February, and I'd make it 5 months. I'd make it like a July inception. I mean, we were probably going to – I mean, that could be, Josh. I don't know. I mean, anything's possible. Chances are it's probably more like, knowing me, it was probably like Sepultura or Tool or something. Right. You never know. So it's like, what the hell is this? Why are you making me – yes. Now it's only music she likes. I've learned my lesson because that doesn't go well when I play music I like during –
Okay.
And Lee. We'll leave it at that.
Lee, what do you have sitting at your number 5, buddy?
I mean, so number 5 for me, this is like 2004 is actually kind of a tougher year. Like we've done some pods that were really terrible, where we just all ended up at the same top 3 or top 5, and there was no question about it. I think this one's going to be cool because we're going to have some different ones. I think I'm putting it at number 5. Modest Mouse, Good News for People Who Love Bad News. Seattle guys. I wasn't actually super into their music, but over time I've grown to really love sort of that album and sort of what they were doing and the aesthetic of what they're doing. It's strange because I think Ethan had mentioned, like, this sounds a little bit like some of the music we would have made fucking around in John's basement, right? except if people were really fucking good at it.
Yeah, except they created hits.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and theirs is like if real musicians and real fucking people got together and said, hey, this is kind of the aesthetic we're after. Let's nail it down. I think they did. I think they nailed it. And that album to me is really awesome. And there aren't really any tracks on there that I think are the winner. I think it's one of the few albums on my list or whatever that's going to be album based. It's the entire album is really good. Even the interlude, there's an interlude. I think it's called like, Waiting for Milo or something. It has a baby crying in it, but the musicianship in it and stuff, the instruments that they use kind of remind me of the Tea Party from way back when. These guys play all kinds of weird fucking instruments that you never know. And it's really crazy to see what they've done on that album and kind of subsequent, but I don't know. That one makes my list, and I was surprised that it arrived at number 5, but I think it does. I think it's an awesome album.
Right on. Okay, well, my number 5 was, I went with this album because it was, okay, this band was like an MTV dream. They had this reality show where they had the process of finding a singer, and I'm like, what is this? It's not In Excess. It's like all these, like, they started doing all these reality shows where like, let's find a singer for our band. Well, anyway, this is one of these super groups where they had, an actual super group where they had Guns N' Roses and they had STP, and my number 5 is Velvet Revolver's Contraband. I don't think this album's like a full great album, but the songs that I like on this are really fucking strong. So, the singles are Slither and Fall to Pieces, and it also has Sucker Train Blues and Set Me Free. But, it's not a perfect album. But, I mean, you have Scott Weiland, who Ethan is a huge fan of. Ethan's a huge fan of Scott Weiland.
I like Scott Weiland a hell of a lot better than I like that Smashing Pumpkin jackass, so I'll tell you that much. I mean, his voice is awesome. Like, I like Stone Temple Pilots.
I like Scott Weiland better than I like Axl Rose, so
fair enough.
You'd think, on paper, I would have loved this band a lot more than I did, but the songs aren't as strong. So, no. I mean, you have essentially, Guns N' Roses, and then you have Scott Weiland fronting the band. I mean, after the Audio Slave project, they're like, well, fuck, man, maybe we can pull this off. I mean, they had a couple great songs, but that's my number 5. I thought that was They had a couple of really strong singles, and it wasn't bad. Wasn't bad for a supergroup. So, Ethan?
Number 4 was another album that I just kind of caught me out of by surprise, I guess, because it's not necessarily, being a guy that was really into hard rock and heavy metal, some of these alternative groups were really trying to like catch their stride. And this band in particular, I think they probably had some underground music, but if I'm not mistaken, this is like one of their debut albums, which is The Killers with Hot Fuss.
Breaking my back just to know your name. 17 tracks and I've had it with this game.
And Hot Fuss was just, it had, once again, a lot of great tracks. It was one that my wife was really into. Like, she liked that music too, so it was something we could both listen to in the car. But it was, musically interesting enough, and there's some great musicality to it. Like, those guys can play their instruments. And I think his name's Brandon Flowers or whatever, the lead singer. Like, he does some interesting things. So, tracks like Somebody Told Me, Mr. Brightside, obviously, but it got so overplayed. All the things that I've done. And I really like a song called Jenny Was a Friend of Mine. I don't know why, but it's just like, there's still other songs on there. Once again, it's complete. It's not like you just had 1 or 2 songs, as a lot of bands sometimes hit when they make it big. It's like they've got these 2 songs with the rest of them. I was like, God, I can listen to this thing from start to finish. And
the old debut album where you could you have your whole lifetime to write the debut album. So if you're actually good, and it could be like successful, kind of like Guns N' Roses did, It's like, how are you gonna? Oh shit! Now we gotta top that somehow
in 18 months.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, and then
you got to go on tour, and then you got to fucking pump out an album, and hopefully it's as good as the next one.
And I don't know that their next one was as good, but man, they still have some pretty good songs on the second one. So these guys have obviously lasted the test of time. They're pretty good at what they do. So that was definitely that was my number 4.
All right,
that's a good choice.
Lee, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, my number 4. I'm actually gonna. So I had MCR, 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge at number 4. So Ethan, you had them at number 5. And actually, as I'm kind of looking at this, so you mentioned, it's got fantastic songs. It's kind of a pairing of almost like pop punk and sort of operatic shit. They're almost like Queen without Freddie Mercury. Like if you pulled the vocals out of both of those, you might be able to mistake My Chemical Romance for Queen if Queen was a little bit more punk. They're operatic. They do albums for the sake of albums. They're very theatrical. Also, fucking awesome driving music. I to this day, I listen to MCR, I don't know, 4 times a week. Like I have a driving playlist on my thing. MCR is on there. They're well represented because it's fucking rad music to drive to.
Gerard Way's got a hell of a voice, to be honest. If I'm saying his name right, I think that guy can. I think he's got pipes, man. Like he's
impressive. Unbelievable, and it's sort of non-traditional. Like it isn't something that I would have liked. I didn't figure I'd like a band that's sort of emo-y and sort of screamo. It turns out I do, but if you asked me, I wouldn't have said that. But also the thing that I'm noticing here, and I just realized it, and I'm going to regress a little bit. So My Chemical Romance, I got into them because I was dating a girl who was listening to that. I was like, who is this? And we started listening. And I had that connection with sort of that moment, right? Like that moment where, in fact, the song Helena is the video is all about fucking, or I don't know what it's all about, but it has a bunch of fucking people dancing like ballet and shit, right?
At a funeral, I think.
Right. And the reason I watched that is because I was dating a girl who was a ballerina. That's a strong word, but she was in college to be a ballerina, whatever. And she watched it. She loved the dancing, and I was like, I kind of like the fucking music, whatever. But I remember it was associated with that period. Like it was, I was driving to Seattle and hanging out with her and whatever, and it was all that. And as I fucking thought about that just now, I realized that's the reason I like Modest Mouse. It's also the reason I like the previous version. Is I was dating is a strong word.
Stalking.
Yeah, sure.
I'm joking.
But hanging out with a girl who, at the time, that was right when I was 2004. I was running the nightclub, or trying to, or whatever the fuck we were doing, and so both of these girls were similar in time, I guess, because we were talking about both of these. But Modest Mouse, not overlapping. I never. No, it's good.
You're a gent.
I'm a saint. Gent. Yes, but like the Modest Mouse, I remember the first time I heard Modest Mouse, I was riding with this other girl in her Jeep, and so that's why I got into that, and it's associated with some really great memories. So honestly, when I am regressing here back to number 5, but the Modest Mouse thing, I don't have a favorite song because I don't think it had anything to do with that. I think they are great musicians. I think it's great music, but also I think it tapped into that thing where I was riding in her Jeep, and then when she'd stop at stoplights, we'd fucking make out. And then it's that kind of thing. It attaches to that sort of chemical thing. I think My Chemical Romance.
Lee's Chemical Romance.
Ooh.
Yeah.
He got some chemicals in his brain going.
Wait, does My Chemical Romance mean that? What did we just find out here? It could be that. I don't know. Or it could be they're into drugs.
She probably has some strong pheromones.
Anyway, that's a huge digression. But I just realized that now that I think the life experience that went along with these things goes a long way toward making the music important. I don't think it's necessarily just that the music is good. I see my list. It's going to be both from here on out. But MCR lands at number 4. Modest Mouse was number 5. And it's kind of for the same reason. Because I was hanging out with chicks who were listening to that. And those experiences are associated with it.
Right on. Awesome.
That's awesome, brother.
No, it's funny when you start talking about your nightclub days, it reminds me so much of that era, because I remember listening to all these albums when I was driving to go hang out with you guys at that club, because it was just like, when you guys were working, I was like, well, fuck, I can like have a great time here at the club over here. Just
man, I
like drink. And
what do they always say about the best kind of boat to own is your friend's boat?
Right.
What's the best kind of bar to own? Your friend's bar. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh man, that was great.
I think that thing was like all of our friends had a fucking great time.
Yeah, and then I'd get hammered, and I would just walk a half block, and then I could just crash on your couch. It was amazing.
And you could pull all the chicks, and we had to stay till the end, and we'd have to fucking count all the money, and then come back, and then wake up in the morning and do it again. And no, that having a friend who owns a nightclub, that's the way to go.
Oh man,
owning a nightclub, I don't recommend it.
Can you open another nightclub?
Please,
go fuck yourself. You open one. It's your turn. It's time for
you.
Put
in Scottsdale, Josh. You'll make a killing.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. So my number four is kind of a weird, bizarre choice. And this is an album that I discovered through John Racage.
Tegan and Sarah. I'm just joking.
The famous John Racage. We all know.
Big
John Racage. This is back when MySpace was around, and you'd like click onto someone's page, and it'd either blow up your fucking like ears, or it'd be like a really cool like chill John Racage song, right? And I'd be like, "What is this?" I was like, "Wow, this is fucking awesome." I was like, "Is this something came out like the late 70s or something like that? What is this?" It was an album called "Let It Die" by Feist.
The evening is long, my guess is true. You saw me see you.
Really chill, kind of almost like loungy. Like it sounds like there's like this one song, especially the one that he had playing on his page, called "One Evening," and it's like very like so chill lounge. Like it was like, man, this is awesome. Like, I was like, it made me kind of like feel like, is this like the music I really should be like into? Because like, man, I'm really fucking into it. And it did like it made me go back to like the era and like really explore some of that kind of like that jazzy fusion kind of stuff. And man, I really got into that. And this helped me. It helped progress me into that kind of music. So there's a song called Mushaboom and Gatekeeper, and there's a cover of the Bee Gees classic Inside and Out. Great stuff. If you haven't checked that out, go ahead and you guys probably you might like it now because you guys have like calmed down a lot of over the years. But
wait, what the fuck?
Lee's always had diverse tastes. I'm the one that had to be.
I really dig this stuff. It's pretty
good.
I
was
Jen loves
he
it.
thought we had to calm down.
No,
I don't know. Did we?
I mean, I was probably always more hyper, probably still more hyper, but like but as far as musically, that's what I mean. I was like, you guys are more into more adventurous kind of rock than I am generally. I'm more tame, kind of like pop rock kind of deal.
We broadened your horizons though, Joshua.
Yeah.
On many a drive.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're on to our number 3 albums. Ethan, what do you have sitting at number 3, buddy?
Well, number 3, I have a feeling is going to be much higher for you guys. But once again, I'm putting these obviously in the order of like their impact on me. But obviously Green Day had a lot of amazing albums that came before this, right? And I know a lot of people are going to say you're an idiot for putting American Idiot third. I mean, because this is obviously a super powerful, theme-driven, very political, just an amazing album that's got a lot of tracks. Kind of weird too, because I didn't quite realize that when you actually go to like the actual CD form, like there's these songs that are rammed together, like they're not like the independent, like for radio play the way they were. But you just can't deny some of the great tracks on there. From Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Holiday, September Ends. I mean, there's just tracks on here that are undeniable. You heard them everywhere. Even like it's not like I went out of my way to listen to a lot of Green Day, but it was everywhere on any good rock station, and I was never upset about it. I've always like enjoyed Green Day. I keep thinking they'd be amazing to see live. I bet they probably still put on a pretty amazing live show. Even at
just missed them, man. I just missed them. Yeah.
Dang it.
We were pissed, too. I was like, and everybody that went to see them, they're like, I've seen Green Day 5 times. This is the best I've ever seen. I'm like,
that's awesome.
Because they were doing the 10-year anniversary the 20-year anniversary, of that album, and then they were doing the 30-year anniversary of Dookie, and they were playing them all in their entirety with their other songs in between. And I'm like, damn, that's pretty awesome, man.
That is a pretty amazing. That would have been a pretty epic show to see just when you're playing all their. Yeah, I mean that's just it. The fact that they're so prolific and they still just continue to make such like powerful music that's impacted so many people, and then and then take a risk too. Just never be afraid to say what's on their mind and what they believe in and stuff like that. Obviously during the Bush administration, something's going on there, and George W. Bush, not George H. Yeah. So just W, strategery. So that's
mission accomplished.
Yeah, that's my number 3.
Okay, all right, Lee.
Man,
what's going on, buddy?
That's pretty good. Didn't your brother go to did you go to the Green Day show at the Auburn Drive-In? Didn't they play there and your brother went?
No, and it's funny because my brother, he didn't go either. I don't know why
they
he
played
didn't
at
go.
the Auburn Drive-In.
Yeah, they played at the Auburn Drive-In.
At the Auburn Drive-In, and you know why I didn't go? I didn't go because I was working that night at KSW, or not KSW.
Gosh.
I was working somewhere. I can't remember where I was working, but I was working, and I was like, oh shit! Like the one night, like one of the biggest bands is playing right down the street from us.
Auburn. Before Auburn had an amphitheater.
Yeah.
I used to work at that shithole, and I could not stand. It was like one of the worst jobs I ever had was working at that place.
Yeah,
that just
that's
blows
amazing.
me
Did
away.
you ever get to pick up like any money and shit?
No money, no. I got jumped one. Okay, so I'd shaved my head, Josh, and I grew my goatee and my mustache out. You guys know this story, of course, right? Like, and then they just happened to put on a double feature, Higher Learning and Black Panther.
Yeah.
And so I'm going out there with my shaved head as a big white guy.
Yeah.
This is also, I'm lifting a lot, but I'm also eating Wendy's for like 2 meals a day. So I'm just fat and strong. And so all of a sudden the guy goes, my battery died, man. You got a jumper? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm bringing it out there. And I'm like, something's up, man. This feels really, and before I know it, 3 guys come out behind me, another guy this way. I just swung my mag light and then took off and sprinted for my life because I knew they were going to try to jump and beat the shit out of me. I don't know.
This is when you were working there?
This is when I was working at the drive-in theater. I only worked there for about 2 months while I was working.
I was going to say, I don't remember you working there.
This is at Incredible Universe. No, excuse me. This is at, I was at Incredible Universe because it was a guy that was in trouble later for stealing a bunch of crap, like overriding the prices down to like 1 cent and getting his friends to pick it up. Like, couldn't happen to a better company. But needless to say, this guy that did that got me a job there. And I was working for Bob, just like working 3 jobs, doing the little dumb stuff out of college that we were all doing. But yeah, that was just like, that place was, I can't believe Green Day, like, did they go and scout it out first? Because like, what?
Right? No,
where did they set this up? Where did this happen? I don't even know.
I don't even get it. There's got to be. I mean, is there video of that? I mean, I guess that's a time before phones and such. Like
yeah,
that,
but
so.
like, come on, like, there's video of everything these days, and it's surfacing. Like, remember, Lee? I found video of that concert that we went to, that Offspring concert at the Mercer Arena, and I was like, holy shit!
Still the craziest concert I've ever been to. And that
was taken in a VHS camera. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There was other weirdos like me carrying around cameras all the time, I guess. But
the Green Day's promoter had to have fucking fooled somebody, and they got there and they're like, "Wait, what? Here?
Yeah,
we're playing here?
There's just gravel poles and shit around here."
Yeah, what?
Right?
We're playing a fucking drive-in movie
place
theater?
that got in trouble because they used to take the hot dogs. And if they weren't used tonight, they literally just threw them in the fridge and they keep putting them back in the warmer for like sometimes 2 weeks. Like Brent's wife, Robin, used to work there too in the frickin' what concessions or whatever. And she was like, Ethan, it was the gross, and it surprised me. Like, the owners were like the cheapest bitches. I mean, just nothing I've ever seen. It's like, I can't do this anymore. It's 2 weeks, and then I'm like, I'm out of here.
Jesus.
Sorry.
So
that was good. I was like,
so maybe we should be happy none of us went to that Green Day show, because I would have eaten a hot dog and not known that.
and you probably would have gotten anal cancer.
Probably.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Anyway, okay, where the fuck are that was a
Lee?
huge digression.
It's Lee's turn. Lee, what's your
I don't
three?
fucking know. Number 3. So I had to pick another one that wasn't on the list, but I fought to not have this. I don't know why. I don't know. It should be number 2, except number 2 is a clear number 2 for me, and I couldn't do it. My number 3 is Roger Clyne and the Peacemakers, Americano. It's one of my favorite albums of all time. I was a huge Refreshments fan. When Roger Clyne came out, I was listening to that stuff, and this album specifically had songs that just immediately were like, I'm into this whole fucking thing. I remember running into, do you remember, Josh, at your parents' house? We were there visiting for something. You were there, and I came in there. I said, you got to fucking listen to this song. And it was Switchblade. Objectively, probably you heard it and went, neat. But for me, it's fucking awesome. It's, I don't know, the storytelling and the fucking sort of Southwest, Mexicano sort of thing that
They've perfected.
They perfected. And
yeah, definitely.
That entire album to this day, I can listen to front to back, and it's amazing. Every fucking thing on it. Switchblade is still my favorite track on it. It's amazing and great storytelling.
I'm going to revisit this because I don't remember this moment, but
oh man, well,
you did this to me about 10 million times.
Oh, totally. Right.
You remember that time I came over and I showed you the song and I'm like, fucking, I don't know.
Well, right. And most of them are fucking weird. But again, maybe this goes back to the thing with Modest Mouse and My Chemical Romance. Like, so Eth, you remember when we were in Mexico and we were drinking Coronas when they knocked the Kingdom down, we were watching that on fucking TV. But like that thing where you're sipping a fucking Corona in Mexico and you're tying it to a fucking Refreshment song, where they're talking about, talking to senoritas and drinking warm beer and shit, and you're actually living that, and that's that fucking memory, that's that thing that's there. That's what Americano is to me, is like in that period, it was there. We had gone to Mexico here and there. Like, I don't know, man, it just resonated. The whole thing resonated, and they're fucking awesome musicians. Roger Clyne is a wildly, wildly underrated songwriter and an amazing singer. I'm glad they found their niche and kind of made it, but like you ask 99% of the people who they are, nobody fucking knows.
Right.
And that album, for
unless
me,
you're in Arizona.
Absolutely. Yeah, unless you're in Arizona. If you're in Arizona,
Are they really? Okay.
Yeah.
Outside of Arizona, nobody knows who the fuck they are. And they are number 3 in a long list of huge, huge bands. They're number 3 for me. Absolutely. And I struggled to not put them higher.
Well, I'm really disappointed that they didn't make it higher. So I'm excited to see your top 2.
Lee, you brought up Mexico. Do you remember the electric chair drop I did to Delana in the pool?
I do.
I swelled up her whole face.
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Are you going to explain this? Or
so we were messing around in the pool, and we were doing pro wrestling moves into the water with the girls because it couldn't hurt them. And there's a move called the electric chair drop from when we used to play WWF, like Royal Rumble. Like the girls would all be tagged us. We'd be a drinking game at Central. Like if one of your people got thrown out, you had to like pound a full beer. And there was a move called the electric chair drop where a person's on the shoulders, you grab them by the ankles, and you pick them up and you swing them down and like smack them on the mat. But that was the pool, and I did this to Delana.
Doing it in the pool?
Absolutely. And did it to Delana, picked her up and swung her down, and she went like, imagine like a belly flop face first, and her face swelled up and was like bruised for me. Like I felt terrible, but it was still just an epic moment.
My God.
Well,
You're like, it was worth every second of it. I would have done it again.
Well, it's also, I think, for people not understanding this, like, so I think it was either you or Josh. Somebody has a picture of you and I on that trip.
Josh.
We were not small people.
College nose tackle, 275 pounds.
Right.
Ethan.
We were not small people. Delana, not a big person. So the physics involved in this,
maybe 125 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah. So like that, I don't know.
God bless you.
By the way,
what people are trying to picture in their head, accelerate it and increase the fucking G-force 4 times. And that's,
by the way, one of my favorite Halloween costumes from this couple weeks ago, Delana dressed up as herself from 1997.
I saw that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it was like she had the whole thing. Yeah, it was wild.
Awesome.
It's like, I showed that to my brother because he didn't know her. And he goes, holy shit, she looks exactly the same.
Awesome.
I go, pretty damn close. Pretty damn close. So I love that. All right.
Yeah.
So where are we? Where are we?
You're on, what is,
I'm on number three.
Yeah,
I'm on
you're
number three. I'm on number three. All right. So the band who released my number 3 favorite album of 2004 is a group. They've been kicking around since the mid 90s. Had some moderate success. Ethan already spoke about them. Seattle band. Modest Mouse's Good News for people who love bad news. I think you guys have both kind of touched on this, but the lead singer, kind of strange, kind of weird, like sings weird, kind of odd, kind of a
like Racage would sing
interesting
if he was the lead singer of the
character.
band.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I like Lee when he goes, yeah, it's like if you guys are like making songs down in the basement at John's house.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it's kind of like that. It reminds me of that MySpace era where like MySpace was kind of weird because it was like that very short period of time where people were discovering music. That's how a lot of music was being discovered at that point in time.
True.
Kind of like, you know, the early 80s, people were like, wow, what's this stuff on this channel, this weird channel that has horrible music videos on it? It's kind of like the same kind of deal. Right. You click on someone's page, they have a random fucking song on it. But everyone had this group, whether it's like, you know, Float On or whatever song on it. But like Lee said, there's like some strange, weird shit that's going on in these songs where like, I mean, everything from like the ukulele to the banjo to the mellotron and the fiddle and the accordion, like all these like weird instruments are going on. You're like, what is this? What's going on in here? But for that group, fucking works. It fucking works. And it makes it so unique that it's like, it's such an interesting listen that like when I went back to revisit this album, I was like, this is like a really fucking strong album. It's very weird, but
totally.
I don't even know if I know of any like song or albums that were this big that are this weird and interesting.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's a great way to put it.
That was my number 3. Yeah.
Man, big and weird. Big and weird. That's a
like John Racich.
Because there's lots of weird,
like John. Yeah, big and weird.
There's lots of weird bands. There's lots of, you know, like, you know, you mean you bring up Racich, like Racich's Racich's collection was like strange albums or groups, but they're not big.
They don't intersect. Those two things rarely intersect. Big is big, weird is weird, and they rarely intersect.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is one of those very, very rare instances where you have, you know, a combination of both. So
and they were kind of, I mean, there was a little nudge of it. We came out of the Seattle scene, and obviously we're all from the Seattle area. They're from Issaquah. Like, it's kind of cool. It was kind of cool that they took us out of the grunge era and into this sort of weird, positive but melancholy sort of thing. I don't know. It was cool.
This is not their first or second album, or even their third album. This is their fourth album. Right. So like these guys were seasoned musicians.
Absolutely.
And the fact that they were kicking around for that many years in Seattle and they finally hit it, you're like, this is pretty cool. Like, another fucking band, another fucking band from Seattle. It's hitting it big.
They were stuck on KGRG playing Green River Community College.
KEXP and
they were stuck there for the first 2 albums fully. Yeah, and then they made it, fucking huge. Yeah. And they didn't change. They didn't like turn into a commercialized band like Sugar Ray. You know, which Sugar Ray, their first album, fucking awesome. Nobody cares. Every album after that, trash. Whatever. Modest Mouse, fucking. Sorry, I digressed again.
It's funny because I always feel weird, like kind of defending that guy. But it's like, man, when you fucking sell that many albums from just one song, Fly, on that second album or whatever, and then, or the second big album, I don't know how many albums they had before that. But that second album, he had that song Fly, and he's like, oh shit, that's a fucking taste of something that we could probably
cash in on
over and over. And then they fucking did that, and he's like, I mean, it did not hurt to not do.
It did not hurt having Nicole Eggert in a very compromising position on the album.
Lemonade or whatever album.
Yeah, that's Lemonade and Brownie. Fly was on that.
No, you're mixing up. Lemonade and
Brownie.
Song?
They had this song at the end though that was like they on that album. that was like the weird poppy one that got attention.
No. That was the next. I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
I'm
almost positive because I have Brownies and Lemonade still on a CD in there.
Go grab it. It has nothing but
I'd have to dig out some bins because it was because 10 Seconds Down is my favorite song on that album.
Okay,
I think that's the last track on it.
Cool.
The album after that had like Fly and RPM, right? RPM.
I'm looking right now on my phone. I'm pulling up a little Spotify.
Yeah, I mean, you might be right, but like 10 Seconds or Lemonade and Brownies to me was pure gas. It was pure gasoline, pop punk, like mostly punk. It
Which is,
or
rock.
I
had a discussion with somebody about that group, and like all these people were like, fucking Sugar Ray and blah, blah. And I go, no, I don't think you guys understand. Like, these guys, go listen to their first two albums. They're fucking like, not like the last few
totally
albums.
Different.
All right. No, you guys are right. And I got some sort of weird version of it where Fly was added after it kind of hit or something, some remix.
Oh, okay. Well, then you weren't wrong. Just, but Lemonade, right. I didn't remember. Yeah. Well, you were if it was added to the one that you were listening to.
I just love 10 Seconds Down.
Me too.
That is a great song. Yeah.
That just reminds me of my sexual prowess. All right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Sorry, we digress.
All right, okay.
We're on to the deuce.
Just 2 more albums to go. So what do you have sitting up your number 2 spot?
My number 2 spot is a band that the first time I heard it, I'm like, I thought it was from another era of time. I'm like, dude, this is like some amazing like blues. Like, what is this? Something my dad listened to? Is this something from like the late 60s, early 70s? And then it had this really kind of weird, like, I don't know, just like aesthetic to it, the way it was recorded. And then I want to say one of my nephews was the first one to play me a song from this band. But it was off of this album, which if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong in the order. It's like the third album, but I didn't hear anything. Like this band was not big or mainstream yet. And I hear this song that's called All Hands Against His Own. And there's this riff in it that just immediately, I'm like, what is this? And I swear it sounded like to me that it was like this African-American blues artist from like somewhere like New Orleans. And then as I start to research and do it, because this is at a time now where you got the internet, obviously you can go look some of these things up, probably on MySpace or something. And I'm coming to this way later than 2004, but this album was like the gateway drug to this band that's now hugely successful and popular, other than they have to cancel tours because nobody apparently wants to buy their overpriced tickets, which is the Black Keys. And I heard this album and the song, I'm just telling you, this thing it's packed. It is packed. And I know it's not the album that broke them, but it's literally just Dan Auerbach on guitar. And I can't remember the name of the drummer. Looks like a Buddy Holly kind of guy with his glasses, big goof, but it's literally just them. And they record it inside of like an old Ohio rubber factory, hence the name Rubber Factory. They're both natives of Akron, Ohio. And they just got this unbelievable, it's like this weird sound because it literally sounds like it was recorded in like an old factory. And it's just, I don't know, every song on it just freaking shreds and rips. I mean, Dan Auerbach can play blues guitar, and these riffs are like timeless.
They're a cool band.
They're super cool. And it was just like, I'm like, I was just blown away. And then I went to the stuff that was earlier, and then I went to the album that was more recent at the time that I came across. How much earlier?
How many albums did they have before that?
2. I think they had one called Thick Freakness, and they had one that was called The Big Up and Come or something. Like, but these guys are prolific, man. Like, they're putting out albums at this point. Like, I want to say like every once a year to maybe 1.5 years.
Wow.
It feels like, because I don't think the first album was maybe like late 90s, if not 2000. I could be wrong on that.
Interesting.
But yeah. And then from there, I just got bigger and bigger fan, and to where the point where you could probably say like the Brothers album might be the pinnacle of their like popularity or whatever. And they're still making some pretty good tunes here or there. I mean, they do a lot of it, I don't know, stuff that kind of explores other genres, like acidy kind of sounds, stuff from like the 60s and 70s, but like just a pretty amazing band. They started adding more musicianship. But that, I'm telling you, I know, I think when we mentioned this a little bit before the pod and stuff, some of you were saying like, I haven't really listened to that album that much. I'm telling you guys, definitely worth a deeper listen, a deeper take, because on this album alone, like if I look at the tracks, I mean, I could almost put every song on this thing. Like there's a great song called When the Lights Go Out that they used to use as a promo for the TV show. When they did this Friday Night Lights show that was on there. Show. I mean, once again, 10 a.m. Automatic is an excellent one. Girl Is On My Mind, The Desperate Man, The Lengths, Act Nice and Gentle. I mean, but like some that are slow and blues, some that kick ass and shred. And I'm just like, the musicianship.
So is this your favorite album by them?
Yeah, either that or Attack and Release is pretty. It's the one that comes just after that, where I think they were supposed to do a pairing with Rick James, believe it or not, before Rick James got like ill or something, and they had to go and repurpose all the music and then made an album for themselves.
It's right around the Rick James bitch stuff too.
I'm Rick James, bitch.
Yeah. So just like, I mean, Black Keys, excellent band, and probably one that wouldn't be as high up on a lot of other people's lists, but I just love this group. And so talk about one of the albums I probably listened to most from that year. This is probably it.
Fantastic. Lee, what do you got, buddy? What's your number 2?
For number 2, it's already been mentioned, but I'm going to expound upon it, obviously. Velvet Revolver, Contraband. Supergroup stuff is always awesome, and we saw Audio Slave kind of happen, and Rage and Soundgarden were 2 of my favorite bands, and then Audio Slave was fucking amazing, but not exactly it wasn't what I thought it could be altogether, even though it was amazing, still amazing. When these guys got together, Guns N' Roses, Stone Temple Pilots, it felt like it should have been huge, right? And it was. I mean, it was awesome, but this Contraband album, it really, for me, only has a couple of songs on it. So Slither, fucking amazing, right?
Yeah.
It's a rap, just a fucking rocks.
It's like
whatever,
tears
right?
your fucking face off.
Totally, but it isn't. I don't know. For me,
I agree. By the way, I've heard you talk about this before. I agree with you. What you're about to say.
I think so. Like, what we want from supergroups is for the best parts of each group to come and still be intact.
Yes.
But be fucking super. And all the other songs on this thing, they're great. They're fine. It's fun. And Slither, fucking badass song, right? But the best song on this, the one that this achieves it better than any other supergroup I've ever heard, Fall to Pieces. If you pull Scott Weiland's writing and the vocals, it's a Stone Temple Pilots song. If you pull the music and the Duff bass line and the slash guitar, it's Guns N' Roses. You put it together and it locks up absolutely perfectly. It is the best of Stone Temple Pilots. It's the best of Guns N' Roses without turning them into something else. That song, Fall to Pieces, I think I listen to it twice a week, probably more. It's on my driving playlist. It's fucking amazing. The bass line, the lyrics, the singing. It also throw into the fact that it's basically autobiographical. You watch the video, it's heartbreaking, with Duff trying to fucking save his friend Scott from this fucking addiction that didn't work, right? I mean, he died of the addiction, and Duff was the guy that was kind of trying to drag him out of it. Like, and the whole thing is Scott Weiland's, despondence about being a fucking addict and falling to pieces and all this shit. That song to me is as perfect as a supergroup song could be that I can imagine it being.
Lee, is this perfect. why you've mentioned that you've been listening to this a couple times a week for the last couple of weeks? Is this why you're not drinking Tito's tonight?
Hey, no.
Because you've been falling to pieces.
You know what? That would make sense. No, I'm not drinking Tito's tonight. If we're being pragmatic about it, it was because I didn't have time. Like, I was rushing to get here and I didn't want to fucking do that. But actually, it's also so. You guys know, like, my body's in pain a lot if I don't. Like, I had some medication that worked. It turns out, and I didn't know this until a friend of mine pointed it out to me, that I was probably drinking to make that pain go away. And then I realized through sort of conversations and whatnot, maybe that's not a good way to do it.
There's lots of songs about this.
I know, right? And so anyway, but I don't really have an addictive personality. I'm never really worried about that. But also, when I drink Tito's, that's about all I drink. I don't really drink beer. I don't drink often. But when I do, like, okay, so this is a 32-ounce Mariner's cup, right? when I get ready for the fucking podcast, it's half full of Tito's. Jesus. And I mix it, like, I drink, I don't know, 10, 12, 14 ounces of Tito's. And then I'm kind of just stupid. And I'm uninhibited, and it's fun. And then it's slurry and then you guys are like, well, that one could have been better. So tonight, I haven't really been leaning on the Tito's because I'm trying to figure out how to get the pain figured out without the medication. And I decided, I'm not going to do Tito's.
He hurt himself.
I know, right? So Scott
Dr.
Weiland
McDonald.
did not influence me. Duff McKagan did not tell me to say this. I don't know. I'm giving it a try sober.
I love it. I love it, though.
If this is your lowest rated episode, fucking back to the juice, man. I play for the team. I'm down for the team. If it hurts me, so what? Let's make this fucking thing fly.
Dr. McDonald's going to prescribe you a hot beef injection.
Oh, no.
Sorry, that was a little gross. Sorry.
I'll definitely need some Tito's for that.
Yeah. That's a good lubricant for that. All right. Sorry. Josh, what's your number 2?
So my number 2. Okay, my number 2, I went with a debut album by a band who is led by a fellow Hall & Oates fan, as myself. Huge Hall & Oates fan.
This isn't starting out well.
It's being very cryptic, though. I'll give him that. Very cryptic.
You like that?
Yeah.
No. So, and I remember this one very well because it was in that group of bands that were like kind of had a retro feel to them, and they sounded like a power pop, new wave, late 70s kind of early 80s, late 70s, early 80s kind of group. And I was like, I remember listening to this and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome, dude. This is fucking amazing. I love this. I love the sound of this. I love the retro, fresh, like this is being played on like radio stations all over the place. And that is Hot Fuss by The Killers. You want to talk about a band who's not afraid to take chances on like new sounds of shit. Like they're definitely one of those bands. If you listen to them album to album, it's like, what the hell what is this? This is the same group that released this like a couple years ago. But yeah, like Ethan already pointed this out, Mr. Brightside. Somebody told me, Jenny was a friend of mine, all these things that I have done, which, is like I got soul, but I'm not a soldier. Love that song. Mr. Brightside has become one of the biggest stadium songs across the entire world. It's funny because like I remember listening to that song or that album and I'm like, that song was good. I always liked that song, but like that one wasn't like the like my favorite song on that album. But it's funny like how some songs they just become the song, and that's clearly the song on that album. It was named Song of the Decade, that song in particular, Mr. Brightside, by UK radio stations Absolute Radio and XFM. It was the most streamed song on Spotify from the 2000s. Pretty wild.
That is wild.
Really?
In October 2010, it was voted number 9 on the list of greatest guitar riffs of the 21st century by Total Guitar magazine. And in 2010, Rolling Stone listed Mr. Brightside as the 48th best song of the 21st century. So yeah, just some weird stats about that song. But no, I think that album is very strong. Again, not exactly, I don't know I think Ethan may have mentioned this. It's like, I don't love every song on it, but it's pretty damn strong. I think it's a pretty damn strong, and it's a debut album. Like,
that's amazing.
Pretty badass. So, and they're from Vegas. Who else is from Vegas? You guys know anyone from Vegas? Like, weird.
Is that Imagine Dragons? That's like the only band I can think of.
I think they might be Mormon, which is extra weird. Anyway, okay.
That would be exciting. Weird.
Okay,
that would be extra weird. Joseph Smith approves.
All right.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, so now we have our runner-up selections, our honorable mentions, and then we're going to give our number 1. So, Ethan, what do you have for your honorable mentions?
Well, as you guys know, I always have way too many on my list, and I feel bad, but I have to give love to what I want to give love to. A great album that nobody probably knows of, and I'm not sure anybody's really listened to, but Death from Above, 1979. You're a Woman, I'm a Machine is just, I'm telling you, it's a great, The Romantic Rights is another great song. It's fun. I mean, the problem is it's not like a complete album, but it was a great one. Also from kind of that weird alternative music that was kind of like kind of retro sounding, but really good. Franz Ferdinand, obviously. Take Me Out might be just one of the just best tracks of that particular year, even though the rest of the album, unfortunately, was not nearly as strong as that track.
Ethan, that is the song. That song and then The Killers That I when I think of 2004, I think of the Killers and I think of Franz Ferdinand.
Well,
Like overall,
totally makes sense.
Not the album, obviously, by Franz Ferdinand, but definitely that song. I was like, damn, this is good.
I say, don't you know? You say you don't know. I say.
Of that same vein, too, some other like deeper cuts. I mean, Arcade Fire is not a deeper cut anymore, but at that point, Arcade Fire, the song "Wake Up" in particular off that album "Funeral" was a big deal. And I mean, I really appreciate a lot of the musicality that Arcade Fire, once again, like those people know how to play their instruments. There's a strange English band called Kasabian, actually named after one of the Manson killers. But they had a song that really hit on a video game, strangely enough, that I played, and it was just a song called Clubfoot. And I'm telling you, just a kick-ass song. They have a couple other albums that came out after, but they're kind of weird alternative English stuff, but really good. And then, of course, I got to give shout out to a couple of my metal bands. Like Slipknot had Volume 3, which, of course, Rick Rubin produced. And if you know Rick Rubin, he doesn't miss very often. So he usually helps people make their best music just because of his ear or whatever. And I'm telling you, Before I Forget and Duality are 2 tracks off of that for Slipknot that arguably some of the easiest stuff to play on the radio crossover, or some of the other stuff was a little intense, a little too edgy. When you have a song called People Equal Shit, probably not going to be on the radio, but these were and honestly probably the best sounding Slipknot songs that could just excellent. Like I can remember Riker in the back seat headbanging to Before I Forget, like I was a worm before I was a man. Riker in the back seat. I'm like, my son gets it. I mean, and let's be honest, he's just a baby. Needless to say too, a band that I didn't respect at the time the way I probably could have, but I've really come to be a big fan of is Mastodon. And they had their original album Leviathan, and there's a song called Blood and Thunder that's just one of the heaviest, most
is that their debut album?
I think it is.
Is it?
And just like face melting. And this is a point too where they only had like 1 or 2 of the band members kind of doing a little bit of vocals. They obviously grew to have like all 3 different guys do. I mean, the band can just morph and do all sorts of things, and a lot of stuff they're recording now sounds like something out of like 70s. It's kind of an amazing band. But Mastodon Leviathan has got that, and Iron Tusk are just 2 songs that are on my workout playlist to get me going while I'm throwing some iron around, albeit not very much anymore because I'm an old man. So those would be, I think that's everything. Yeah, that's
Is that everything, Ethan?
Is that sorry? Is that it? I don't know. I always have too many. I know. I don't do this well.
Ethan, there's some more albums that came out that year if you want to add any albums.
Well, Tegan and Sarah's the name of my wife and I'm joking. All right.
Just joking. Man, whew. I feel inadequate now. I have like 3.
Sorry.
3 enough? Should we pause
shut up?
and let me
I
get some more?
Oh, God.
But no, I mean, hey, 3. I've got 3 honorable mentions for me. Also, first, a shout out to Eth for throwing iron around at all anymore. At our age, that shit hurts, and pushing against that gravity. If I can keep
you do
doing
the same thing, handsome. You do the same thing.
I know. Hey, that's the thing. That's what's keeping us together.
That's right.
You got to push against gravity, or gravity fucking buries you. So anyway,
I'll be honest about a lot of the people that I saw photos of our reunion. We're looking pretty good compared to some of these people. So we're.
I think we're doing all right.
What about me?
I'm just saying. Look at you.
Hey man,
that mustache
you're fucking lifting. Yeah, you've always been in shape, Josh.
I want to smooch that mustache.
That mustache is. Look, I was going to avoid mentioning the mustache because it does feel a little gross.
It's only a couple days growth.
That's the point.
It's got a reddish tinge to it too. I wanted to.
The point is that it's got a couple days growth. Put a Band-Aid on it or something until it grows. It's fucking gross right now. I don't know.
Is that a 7th grade mustache?
At least I got some color on mine.
Just don't go out for a while. Just give yourself a week or something, and just don't.
I like it, Josh.
Okay, Santa. Let's go.
Yeah,
let's go.
I do have a standard beard. All right, fucking fine. Honorable mentions.
Your honorable mentions?
Honorable mentions. I like Papa Roach. I like their music. I didn't think it belonged on the top of the fucking list, but Getting Away with Murder, I liked it. I love the song Scars. I thought it was pretty fucking cool. It doesn't really belong in the pantheon of anything notable except honorable mention. It was a good song, or a good album with some good songs, and it rocked, and I liked it. Also, kind of a little bit further down the line, I was actually going to try and get these guys to play in our nightclub, which would have been a fucking near impossibility. But in 2003, because we had the club from 4 and 5, Killswitch Engage. Killswitch Engage was kind of almost gettable for our thing, and I had just discovered them. I'd been watching them I saw them on like some weird cable fucking midnight thing, and I was like, who the fuck is this? And Killswitch, and I got into them, and I was like, fuck, we could probably book these guys. And then Nightclub went out, but that album, The End of Heartache, and specifically that song, The End of Heartache, is fucking awesome. It's a rad fucking thing.
Do you guys, we saw Kill Switch Engage? You might even remember this, but when we were working at the Gorge, they were at one of those Ozfests that we worked. Yeah,
no
they
shit.
were. And
I don't
that's
remember
the first
that.
time I ever heard them. It was like, oh, these guys are pretty legit. But I think it was like they're like, and they were on like one of the far stages. I just happened to be making the transition from the front gates down to the.
Yeah. Well, that's all I remember from that is that we'd intercept all the people to booze and then we'd take the booze home.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah. Oh dude.
Yeah, you take
that's
it
a pod
and
in its own. Working at the Gorge,
Yeah.
some of the stories we have from that'd be a great pod, Josh.
Did we ever get
awesome.
paid?
Crazy.
Did we get a paycheck? Because all I remember is bringing home just boxes of fucking booze.
We did, but it wasn't much of one, and it felt
Yeah.
like you had a nickel and dime with those jackasses all the time.
I don't remember ever thinking about the pay.
That reminds
we
me
went there
of
and we caught people and just.
that reminds me of when you and Kevin worked at Fenders, owning that club. All Kevin would do is take home the women, and that would be your pay.
Yeah, exactly. And if you ask me what I got paid, fucking nothing.
Yeah,
I got nothing. I got robbed.
Labor of
I got
love.
fucking robbed. Yeah, my virtue fucking should have been stoked. I don't know.
Labor of love. That goes both
Labor
ways
of-
too.
No,
All right.
okay.
Okay.
Anyway, whatever. So fucking.
sorry. Did you have another one? I think I intercepted.
I
you
did
before
have
you finished
I
your
did have
third
one
honorable
that
mention.
is definitely not going to be on anybody else's list as a fucking honorable mention. It's Me First and the Gimme Gimmes ruined Johnny's bar mitzvah. So Me
That's
First
awesome.
and the Gimme Gimmes were
The fact that Me First and the Gimme Gimmes made the list is amazing. I love it.
Well, did they have to?
I love that group.
They're so fucking rad. They're like a super group from like NoFX and some other like it's dudes from just punk bands, and they only do covers. They don't do any fucking original shit. And
Yeah.
each one of their
That's why
their
they're
albums-
awesome.
It is. It's fucking. They don't take themselves seriously at all. And then they only do covers, and they sort of theme each covers or each album. So
Like
one
the
time it'll be
country
like-
album.
yeah, the country album, the fucking show tunes album, the whatever. And they're all, in my opinion, they're all fucking awesome. Hearing punk versions of fucking Don't Cry For Me Argentina, that's a different album. But it's fucking amazing. It's fucking amazing that they
That's
took a Madonna
impressive,
song and turned it into a punk song and did it better. Anyway,
Oh,
this album
cool.
is literally a live album where they played a kid's bar mitzvah. And it's bad because most of the people don't know who the fuck they are. And they play it and they record it live, and the entire album is live all the way through playing this kid's bar mitzvah. And
Wow.
it's rad. They even have him come up and sing. It's a terrible musical album, right? But everybody should just listen to it because it's fun. It's like, this is what music should be, is like a
Right.
super group of fucking bands who are making millions of dollars take time out and go fucking play this kid's bar mitzvah, and everyone's confused. It's great. It's
That
fucking,
is fucking funny.
It's great.
God, is there video of that?
There's some video
Is
of it.
there really?
You can find video on YouTube. Like, they don't have the whole thing recorded, or I
Yeah.
haven't found it. If you type into YouTube, Me First and the Gimme Gimmes ruined Johnny's bar mitzvah,
No
there's
way.
video, and it's the actual recording. Like, they
That is
recorded the
great.
fucking thing live. They didn't cut it. They didn't do anything. They're like, here's the recording.
That
And
is
there's
funny,
people
yeah.
even dancing around and doing shit, and like,
That
it's
is funny.
It belongs in the honorable
Are they
mention
singing
just 'cause
Jewish
it's fun.
songs too? Like,
Oh, they sang like Hava. They sang like Hava Nagila and shit. But like, it's
that is
I don't know, man.
fantastic.
It's fun. It's fun, and that music should be fucking fun and all kinds of. Just fucking look it up. People look it up.
That's great.
You're probably gonna think I'm a nut, but whatever. That's my honorable mention list.
All
I
right.
love it. What about yours,
All right,
Matt
all
Luck?
right. Okay, so I mentioned that I love the rock revival bands that were reminiscent of the late 70s, early 80s. That's why I like the Killers album. Franz Ferdinand, I love that Take Me Out. Like Ethan said, though, the whole I tried listening to the whole album. Just didn't catch. It was like, wow, we have a fantastic single. And like they played to the record company. They're like, holy shit, where's the rest of the album? They're like, that's the thing. We don't really have a rest
Yeah, about that.
other songs.
Create some filler
Like,
and let's sell
Get
this.
back in the fucking out. Get back in the studio. Like, guys, we need to fucking hurry. Okay, anyway. So I love that. I also like the garage band revival groups that were coming out at the time, like the Vines and the Hives, and again, not super strong full albums to me, but the singles were fantastic. I love the singles. I revisit those often. But the album that I had for my first runner-up, well, one of my runner-ups here, definitely the gayest album on my list. Like literally, like they're
Happy and full of life.
they're called the Scissor Sisters. it's a mixture of like glam rock and electronic and dance music, and they almost made my list of like maybe like top 5 because this album is strange, but it has some like really good songs like Take Your Mama. Obviously, that's the one that hooked me. Has Mary, as Laura, and Tits on the Radio. I mean, how can you go wrong with Tits on the Radio, Lee?
You can't. There's no,
anyway. But
unless that was a boy band talking about themselves.
No, but a lot of different sounds going on in this album, but it's kind of like a mixture of dance, electronic, and rock and pop. But it's a very interesting listen, and they've gotten a lot bigger over the years as far as people like getting into especially those first 2 albums.
Here's an observation. You guys can tell me if it's true. If we made this list for ourselves in 2004 or even slightly after 2005-06, it's a completely different list, right?
Probably, because some of these bands that I wasn't even aware of in 2004.
Well, yeah, but I'm just saying, like, even if we had heard them all, I think that's a really cool thing about music is we get to go back. They're recorded, and we get to listen to them. We get to appreciate them later, and then we get to appreciate them over time and find ways to appreciate them. I think I talked about this with Phil Collins. I hated Phil Collins until very recently.
I thought you said you had a conversation with Phil Collins.
No, it would be rad if I had.
I was talking about this with Phil Collins over beers.
I was talking about this with Phil. No, but like this thing, Scissor Sisters. I bet you wouldn't have mentioned Scissor Sisters until recently, even if you were aware of them.
I think you know what's funny is this is the time where I discovered that you could I had a CD burner. Remember my old CD burner that I used to have? And I would go to the library and I would just check out random CDs and I have these stack of CDs and I just go through them and I'm like, what is this? And that was one of the albums that I finally discovered who they were, but I couldn't. I didn't find them at the record store or anything, but they had them at the library. Someone fucking ordered them from the library, and I listened to it, and I was like, I don't know if it's the first song, but it's so good. It's like ding 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 ding, and I was like, damn, this sounds fucking really awesome. And it's like that is how I discovered that full album, and I was like, this is an interesting album because it was like not. It usually like when you listen to a band, it's like one genre and they pretty much stick to that genre. This shit was fucking all over the place, and it sounded like different eras, different kind of styles, and I was like, and then I looked at I think was this right when was YouTube out yet? I don't know if they were.
Pretty
if they were, they're
I mean, like the very yeah.
But or maybe I don't know. Maybe I somehow saw a video, or maybe it was like later when I saw a video. I was like, "Holy shit, that's the band!" Like, the guy's like really like flamboyant. But that song is so reminiscent of Elton John. This is really cool. I thought this was like super cool. The next album, they had Elton John playing piano on their big hit song, which was so big. I never even heard it on the radio in the States, but in Canada. When we went up to Canada, like Ryan and I went up to Canada, we'd always go up to Whistler. You came with us a couple times, Lee, or once or twice. I don't know. Anyway, we went up there. They played the song like 4 times at this club we were at. Like it was so big. And I went and I looked it up like later. And like this song was like #1 all over the world, except for the United States. And they're from New York. So I was like, what? Like nobody even knows. Like I'll bring these guys up sometimes. It was like, but nobody knows who they are. Unless you're from a different country. It's like it's so fascinating how that works with different kinds of bands and music. So,
well, that might be a good segue because I know what Ethan's #1 is, and he's gonna basically mention my #1, and it's a band that most people don't fucking know who it is.
So let's hear it. What is your #1?
Our #1 is Clutch, Blast Tyrant, and I'll tell you, the first time I heard this band, once again. I don't know that I knew them in 2004. Lee probably did. Like, I knew of them. I'd heard them. They'd opened for Pantera and some shows I'd seen in like 99, 2000 and their very early stuff. And they fascinated me and they sounded amazing live. And then I think I tried to go listen to one of their CDs at like Blockbuster. Remember when you used to go to the Blockbuster and get to put on scan it and listen? And I'm like, yeah, this isn't nearly as good live for that first early album. I probably picked the wrong track or something. But then when I got introduced to them later and the song called The Regulator, and I'm telling you, I don't care who you are. There's not that one.
Oh, okay.
There's not a person I've played the regulator for that doesn't just think that song isn't incredibly badass. And my cousin Sean said, like, you know Clutch. I'll go, yeah, I've heard of him. He goes, no, you don't know Clutch. And he plays me the regulator when he's at my house one time, and he's, Canadian, loves ski or snowboarding stuff. He goes, this is the best snowboarding song that's ever been invented. And then it's been used on like The Walking Dead and a lot of other. I mean, these guys, this is a band that sounds like literally should be playing behind chicken wire at your local, like, kind of like a roadhouse kind of a thing. Like the musicianship of this band though is like so good that you'd have to be a musician. Like I know this is a band that a lot of musicians love because they respect, like when you go through the trouble of like selecting certain drums that are antiques from like the 1950s because of the specific sound it makes, and they use it for just that. It's like there's nerdiness at a level in musicianship that I think an untrained ear wouldn't quite realize. And this is like, I think maybe like their 4th or 5th album, Lee.
I think it's their 5th. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be honest, this album
this is their 6th because they had Jam Room.
Elephant Riders, but Jam Room's kind of like, I don't know if Jam Room's considered a true release or like more of an
That's
EP
what I'm saying. Is like, because it went like transnational.
Because even it still holds to China, I think, before that too, and like.
I mean, there was but that's the thing though, is how do you judge it? Because they're a band that just released a bunch of shit. They still do. They release weird shit on vinyl, and like, is it an album if they just fucking do it? But yeah, this was. I mean, they'd been going since '93. Like, I don't want to hijack your thing, Heath. Go ahead.
And then
I was going to say, so we have the same. This is the same #1 album. Everything Ethan just said is true, and I get chills when I think about the song "The Regulator." It's so fucking good. It is so good. It's fucking amazing, but the lyrics, like, you should have closed your window and got another dog. Like, you should have switched up all. Yeah. I don't know. The whole song is fucking brilliant, and they have an acoustic version that's even fucking better somehow. I don't know.
It even starts acoustic in the original, which is just so excellent. Right. Just like, different than their other stuff, and
it's fucking amazing. But this was, like Ethan said, it's their 5th or 6th or 10th, like depending on what you count. And I knew these guys from way back when. The first song I ever heard from them was Shogun Named Marcus, which I think was on Transnational Speedway League.
First album.
And I was like, whoa, these guys are kind of cool. And then the eponymous album came out in '95, which is top to bottom one of my favorite albums of all time. It's fucking amazing all the way through. Super weird because I never smoked weed, and that's a super stoner album, but I don't care. And then they sort of fell off, or maybe I fell off listening to them because of just the period of my life or whatever, but I came back to them here at Blast Tyrant. And from The Mob Goes Wild and sort of that connection with the dudes from Bam Margera and sort of Jackass and that stuff, because I think Ryan Dunn was in that video.
CKY2K and
CKY2K and all that.
I think Bam was as well.
Maybe Bam. I remember Ryan Dunn was in it, but like that fucking song, first of all, kicks ass. Like that was the right choice for the first sort of single off of that one. Is please allow me to adjust my pants. Like that's the first line. So please allow me to adjust my pants. Right. It's so fucking rad. And then it's fucking rock. Yeah, it's so rad. Yeah. But then it just, the whole album just continues on down that line. It's fucking amazing.
Sneaky political, because we're like at the start of like the war in Iraq and the war in Afghanistan, and like Neil Fallon's lyrics. I mean, this is a guy that's got like a degree from the University of Baltimore, Maryland, Maryland, Baltimore County. Like there's like, he is so good in like just the clever ways, but it's kind of subtle too. This is, I think, where they really took a departure from stoner rock, even though they're probably putting that genre still, to like musicianship, because it's the album after this. It's like literally a New Orleans blues album.
Oh, yeah, Beale Street to
Roof's good. Yeah. But it's just like, I mean, there's so many tracks. And like, Josh, you know me, like for me to pick an album, put #1, it's got to be a complete album. And I don't know that there is a single bad song, in my opinion. It's like songs like, and these sound crazy ass, but they're so good. Like In the Wake of the Swollen Goat.
Yeah.
To Mercury, the very first track, right into
sounds like a Primus album or something.
Cypress Road, which is like this amazing song. Like I'm just telling you, like if you haven't, Josh, give this a deeper listen. I know Clutch Baby not your thing, but listen to the hooks, the guitar playing, like the musicianship's on. I know Neil Fallon's not everyone's acquired taste at singing, but there certainly were singers out there. This thing just every song. The promoter of Earthbound Causes, one of Riker's all-time favorite songs, as a little boy used to sing Prophets of Doom.
Yeah.
With a mustache and a supernova tossed off the cliffs of dough. Like he would just like go off and like know all these words. I'm like, what the hell are you like? I was so shocked that Riker's singing this in the back seat as a kid. Like, I don't know. It's just It's a complete album, actually. Even like Spleen Merchant. There's like just songs in there. The Army of Bono, which is just Bonos, which is making fun of like we're talking about stigma. I'm telling you, it's an excellent album from start to finish, and one of the best bands I've ever seen live. Like they are unreal live. I've seen them several times.
Have you ever seen them live?
No.
We're going to make that happen next time they come because they're prolific tourists too. They'll come to Portland like at the and they still inexpensive tickets. Like last time my buddies and I bought it for $35 with fees. Wow. And this is in 2022 or something, right after, and just had the time of our life. And they're still putting out good music.
Well, that's the thing is the hard part was they don't come out here. So they just don't. For the entire time I was into them while I lived out here.
Yeah, in the younger days.
When I lived out here in the early, obviously until we left in 2013. How often did they come here? Very rarely, and it was usually not to Seattle, it was to Portland or somewhere else, and then it was like I couldn't catch them or didn't, whatever. And then in the Midwest, they swung through, like, I think the closest they got was like Milwaukee, and I thought, man, I might go to this, and then I'm like, by myself? Fuck, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
But now, if they come anywhere near us, we're fucking going.
Oh, they'll do it. So, Lee, I've seen them in Boise, I've seen them in Spokane, I've seen them in Portland twice. I've seen them in Vancouver, BC once. I mean, so I've seen, and every time, not once have I been disappointed. Because when you have a catalog of music like that too, you can never play the same songs, and you're always kind of like, I wish that. But it's like, when I see them next time, I know they will. So it's like
Ethan, the guy's like the lead singer. What's the lead singer's name?
Neil Fallon.
He's like, it's good to see everybody here tonight. Ethan, is that you, Ethan?
I'm telling you, Josh, their fans are like, they have this huge fan following despite never getting any commercial success. It's insane. They sell out these shows.
The one thing I know about Clutch is their fans are fucking hardcore.
Yeah.
Like
well, they're just tuned into it. Like it is. I mean, it's like once you get it, you just fucking get it. Yeah. And it isn't everybody's cup of tea by any stretch. Yeah, I mean it is. But like people for Radiohead, I don't get Radiohead. I don't get it. People don't get Clutch because of Neil Fallon's voice and his whatever, and they're fucking weird. But once you get it, you're fucking in. And those people are in, and we get it. And like I don't know.
This is the era, by the way, that I remember you listening to the most Clutch.
Oh yeah,
up until that point. Like you always had. I was always kicking around, Clutch CDs in the bottom of my feet in your truck. But like I would come to Lee's place for a couple drinks before we go, kick it in Seattle, and like it would be Clutch, like listening to Clutch on the radio or the CD, and then on the TV would be Marlboro Man and the what is it?
Harley Davidson,
the Marlboro Man.
Fuck yeah, dude. Yeah, that's a good movie. Fucking Don Johnson and Mickey Rourke.
Right there. Yeah.
You like that? I like that? Yeah. So, all right. Okay. So, Clutch. We have a dual Clutch here.
We have consensus. And Ethan, thanks for the Clutch shirt. I just hung out at Ethan's house last week. He's like, this one doesn't really fit me anymore. So guess what? I took my shirt off that I was wearing, which was a Clutch shirt, and put that Clutch shirt on.
Shut up.
And Calvary, and by the way, I did not plan this. You guys know I don't plan my fucking wardrobe. I just happened to be wearing a Clutch shirt, and he goes, "Oh yeah, I got something for you." And he
that is awesome.
Clutch shirt. I was like, "Fucking awesome!" And I showed you now, except I wear it. What's that?
It hurt to part with it, but man, it just didn't fit me right, and it looked fantastic on you.
Yeah.
So,
that's awesome. Right on. Awesome. All right. So I mentioned that I'm kind of more of a pop rock guy, or rock, or mainstream rock, or whatever you want to call it. Kind of one of those deals. I'm definitely. I'm just gonna say I'm not. I've tried to like Clutch. I feel weird that I'm the only one that's not picking Clutch for my number one album.
You're fine.
Because apparently everyone else would be picking Clutch, and I'm like, I'm the weirdo going.
Lee and I might be two of the many.
Your two friends, Lee and Ethan, would pick Clutch. Literally nobody else.
Maybe Robbie Williams from back in college, but maybe not.
Yeah, maybe. So you're not. You shouldn't feel weird for not liking.
The rest of the world is going to pick what you pick.
Yeah.
So Anyway, I think that to me, the number one album of 2004, the number one rock album, it's not even close. This is a fucking like blowout by a mile. Like, and it's not even fucking close. It's Green Day's American Idiot. Yeah, so this album, Ethan already mentioned like the big hits, Boulevard of Broken Dreams and all these great songs, Holiday and American Idiot, the title track. But I saw that Wake Me Up When September Ends is about the death of his father back in September of 1982. And the album tracks, even the album tracks they're catchy. It's not like not like some of the other albums on my list where like, yeah, okay, I can sit through these songs. They're not bad. But the songs on this, they're pretty strong. They didn't get like radio play like the other ones because like, so many songs could get airplay like on an album, but this album sold 23 million copies worldwide. And I always talk about the fact that you can hide songs that chart, like you can like kind of like fudge that can be fudged, not album sales. Album sales are album sales. So that's like, that's people going, that's connected with me. I'm going to buy that album. 23 million copies worldwide. It's pretty impressive. Wow. So overall, what are your thoughts on 2004? I know that Lee kind of like started off with, it's kind of an interesting year. It's not really, it's not one of the stronger years. Now, I remember we did 1994, which is an insane year. We couldn't even get to all the albums. It was so packed with like great music. But like this album or this year, not probably my favorite. Like, but there was always great music. What are you guys' thoughts on 2004?
I think 2004 was promising just because there was this rock revival and there was like a big swing for like both kind of like the garage bands in the alternative world and some of that stuff that you were saying kind of sounded like something out of the late 70s or early 80s, or like synth and pop. And it was just, to me, it was just nice to see rock in its own way return, even if it wasn't necessarily maybe that classic rock sound. Okay. And there were some decent new metal bands kind of coming on the scene and other things that were just picking up traction. To me, it was pretty good time for music. Just like this particular year, just didn't have a lot. Like there was a lot of bands on, like you said, that I really, really liked, but that just wasn't a year that they had a very strong album. So to me, it was promising and so showing some momentum, headed in the right direction.
Lee?
Yeah, I think my impression is sort of similar, except I think I can't pin it on 2004. I'll say kind of this rise of music diversification and I think it's the internet. So whenever the internet started becoming kind of big with music is when we got a chance to have diverse music available to us, because prior to that it was like, oh, in the 80s you were either into pop or you were into hair metal or hair bands or whatever, and then it was grunge, and then it was whatever
radio,
and then at the end of the 90s when the internet kind of corresponded with the internet is when, oh, what era were you in then? And the eras stop. There are no more eras after that of like, oh, this is what music is. There are trends and genres and whatever, but it's super diverse after that. It's sort of a before and after. And I think 2004 is a good representation of the list. The songs or the albums on our list were pretty diverse. Like they're not, whereas 94 was all fucking Seattle. It was grunge. It was a great year for grunge. Great. Like the rock. That's what it was. If we had done, 87, it's all fucking hair shit, hair metal and hair poison, whatever. That's my impression in 2004 is that it's a diverse year, and it's kind of the first time in our lives where that momentum starts going with diversification of music.
Yeah, good observation. I like the internet comes along and kind of, which is, I always talk about that. It's kind of good and bad. Where like it's good because like, man, you have the entire history of the world to explore, but it's also bad because like now nobody really connects as much as they used to.
Yeah.
When you talk about stuff like this, which is why I like talking about this stuff, but it's kind of cool that you can listen to whatever you want, whenever you want, and you can really focus in on what you really love. And I think that's really cool. Now to me, I noticed that this is kind of that era where the hard rock that was coming out was not really my style. It was just like that kind of like overly produced
new metal,
like hard,
metal. Yeah.
Well, no, because the new metal is kind of like just ending at this point in time. Like kind of like, you know what I mean? Like the new metal is kind of like, I'm talking about like bands like Crossfade and like Alter Bridge and Rise Against and Breaking Benjamin.
Sort of the I don't know,
the new kind of like
it's like overproduced. It's not bad. It's not
like
bad.
The
it's just
Nickelback version of metal.
The Nickelback version of
yes, and it's like,
it's like even Chevelle, like you remember that first album by Chevelle? I really liked that album. I was like, damn, dude, this is fucking awesome. And then like, did a fucking producer of all these fucking bands get a hold of that group? Like I don't know. It's just like that kind of style. like I think about this era of that kind of that style breaking out, and I'm like, oh man, like what happened to rock, man?
That's valid.
And then I did start moving into like the, you know, like Ethan and both of you guys mentioned this, but the Franz Ferdinands, the Hives, the Vines, like those are all kind of like peaking, or maybe just
because it was a little more stripped down and real. It wasn't that the processed
garage rock bands, you know, like maybe their dad was like, hey, you gotta hear this fucking band from 1978, you know, it's fucking, you know, it's like, whoa, like,
so Black Keys hit me, so I think.
Yeah, but then I also started listening to more like electro funk and hip hop and indie rock, and again, it's just going like with what Lee said. Everything's like wide open. I think 2004 had some strong country albums and some good hip hop albums. Gwen Stefani had that excellent album, that debut solo album of hers, which is fucking killer. So yeah, that was our 2004 list of top rock albums. We want to hear what your guys' favorite albums are.
Absolutely.
So give us your list of albums. I'm sure I will be the only one not to have Clutch at number one. And
actually, Ethan and I will probably be the only ones that have
only one. Yeah.
I don't know, man. I don't know.
There's a few hidden people out there that might be like, fuck yeah, I get it. All right.
Yeah.
It's like a secret club.
Like, they are a popular band, and like, and their fans are hardcore. Like I see their fans on TikTok and shit. Like they're out there, man. It's not like it's
and
not
they
just
seek each other. I was at like a bonfire, I don't know, a few months ago or something, and a bunch of people. Some dude walked across the entire yard to be like, fucking Clutch, right on, because I was wearing a hoodie. Whoa, which reminds me. Let me know. I don't want to derail us. I want to plug something for the first time in Josh's podcast history. I never do this. Ow, shit. So you remember Justin and Robbie. You remember our bar manager Justin?
Yeah.
So he's been doing a bunch of stuff. He and his brother own 1111 Peterson Brothers down in Tacoma. They also own Peaks and Pints. I always get that wrong. I don't know if it's Peaks and Pints or Pints and Peaks. These dudes made a fucking movie. It's the Rainier Beer movie, and they gave me this shirt, so whatever. But
dude, that's awesome.
Dude, we went and saw it. It's been at Seattle International Film Festival. We went and saw it down in Tacoma. It's fucking awesome, dude. It's basically the story about the advertisement around kind of the Rainier Beer sort of thing,
which is legendary.
It's fucking amazing.
Pacific Northwest.
Pacific Northwest, baby, yeah.
So I mean, I didn't think about this until you just kind of mentioned that, but like, go watch. It's fucking awesome. Rainier Beer. I think it's RainierBeerMovie.com. RainierBeerMovie.com. Like, I don't know. Check it out.
The trailer. Like, it was pretty fucking amazing.
It's awesome. Dude, the movie's amazing. We went and saw it. I want to see it again. And that's not just because these guys did it. It's fucking fun, dude. It's like living back through kind of our childhood and watching that stuff and seeing how they came about it and how they went about doing all the ads and all that shit. It's fucking awesome. Anyway, that's my lone plug, I think, in the history of the Josh and Friends podcast.
I don't know. I feel like Tito's deserves like maybe a.
Well, I mean, I feel like I've been representing them pretty well, but
Ethan,
but this one's an actual.
Ethan, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Besides my wife, no.
And I feel weird because we went through the whole podcast and Lee didn't even fucking mention this album.
Kelly Clarkson, Break Away.
I feel really weird.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Kelly fucking Clarkson.
That's the thing is, so Kelly Clarkson, you know my story about Kelly Clarkson, though. Like, I don't care much about her music except
now,
that
Lee,
yeah.
I will remember this forever when you came over to my place and you're like, I just saw something that is fucking insane.
Yeah.
And you played that live version of her singing that song off this album.
It gives me chills to this minute. So she's a great singer, obviously. But you hear it, American Idol, you don't really know. And then that thing, the VMA, 2005 VMA Video Music Awards fucking performance of Since You've Been Gone. She comes out there and it starts kind of a little wobbly, right? Like she just kind of, since you've been gone. And she's like, it's, I don't even know the words, but she goes through and then, but dude, there's a fucking moment. There's a moment in there when you hear this, like Adele has this ability where somebody just fucking unloads, and you're like, you go from okay to whoa, holy fucking shit. That moment, you go from okay, American Idol, whatever, to holy fuck, this is a huge star. Holy
awesome,
shit.
man.
Her pipes are unbelievable.
It is
and
crazy.
From that moment, it's just a dumb video, but it's live and it just shifts gears and you're like, oh shit. Okay.
Ethan, you know what? You know how I remember that? He made me watch it like 5 times in a row.
Dude, I'm going to watch it after this. Like, I'm going to put it on fucking YouTube. It's
Right.
that thing.
Send it to us on the pod chat, man.
Dude, it's the VMA Music Award. Just type 2005 VMA, and I guarantee that's the number one thing that pops up because
I'm
that.
trying right now, buddy.
All right, gentlemen, we got to wrap this up. So, hey, thank you both for coming on today. It's always been a good time, and I know it's going to be a great time in the future. So we're going to have to do it again. What do you think, Ethan?
I love it, man. I want to be back anytime, man. I love being on the show. Are you just messing with me right now, Josh?
No, not at all. All right.
I mean,
Okay,
at least we're
so-
going to do this again next year, right? For
That's why my
2005 or
boys got to
whatever.
come down in January. We can film a live one with the two of us. Come on, man.
Okay, well, thanks again for coming on, guys. All right, for Ethan McDonald and Lee Olson, I'm Josh. And as always, thank you for being a friend.